4 corrupt, politically motivated prosecutors, one target, Donald Trump. They say they're upholding the law, but a close examination reveals politics of the very worst kind meant to influence the 2024 election. Investigations unprecedented in American history, part of a broader attempt to silence and penalize a president who challenged the status quo.
You have 4 or 5 different prosecutions in different form on different highly aggressive theories and applications of the law. On the eve of an election of the President of the United States, can there be any doubt that there's a sentiment of this is get Trump? Get Trump.
These prosecutions against President Trump, both the criminal prosecution along with the civil fraud prosecution, is blatant election interference. It's Democrat lawfare to take out President Trump. They fear that they can't beat Trump on November 5th, 2024, and so they just want to throw him in prison for the rest of his life.
Revealing the depth of 4 politically motivated prosecutions. Chasing Trump, political prosecutions, justice gone wrong.
Is this thing working?
Is it what you just listened to, folks out there, is the new trailer for the upcoming documentary called Chasing Trump. The documentary exposes the backgrounds of the 4 left-wing prosecutors targeting President Trump and is being released next Wednesday, April 17th. So let's be looking for that. That's exciting. Welcome to the show, everyone.
So I guess everybody survived the eclipse yesterday.
Yes, we did.
Nobody.
We got some some really cool videos.
Yeah, we did.
You know, it was fun.
Yeah.
The
clouds broke for a few seconds here and there, and we stood out there, and it was pretty cool.
It was cool. Nothing weird happened, and no UFOs, and no craziness. It was just a once in a lifetime thing that happened, and we all had fun with it. People made lots of money. It was good for the economy. But before we get started with the show, can you please do us a favor and share the show with all your friends? Also, stomp that like button and please follow or subscribe wherever you see our name. Is this thing working? You're helping us grow, and we thank you. We put you in the room every single day, and we ask that you become informed and become engaged. But we have a big show from Trump to Merrick Garland to Christopher Wray's FBI and to Texas. So we're all over the place today. So here we go.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Did you hear about them ex-generals that band together against Trump? How many were there? 19 retired generals, admirals, and former top defense officials filed Supreme Court brief against President Trump's immunity bid, claiming Trump's act threatens national security.
Yeah, this is by the Gateway Pundit article here, and this is what we're talking about here. 19 retired generals, admirals, and former top civilian defense officials have filed a brief with the U.S. Supreme Court opposing former President Donald Trump's plea for immunity from prosecution, claiming that granting such a request would pose a significant threat to what? National
security.
As always, the go-to answer.
Oh, my gosh.
That way
everything is national security with these people.
Yep.
You know, I mean, you could go out and pick your nose and get arrested because it's against national security.
Well, it goes on to talk about this, and I'm going to bring some points out in this here in a minute, but it says that the Supreme Court is set to deliberate on Trump's presidential immunity argument on April the 25th. This is the Jack Smith case that we've got going on.
Yes.
And what they're going to deliberate on is whether a president can be shielded from legal consequences for actions taken while in office. And this decision may not arrive until late June, according to analysts, but it has significant repercussions for the timeline of Special Counsel Jack Smith's case against President Trump, potentially delaying the trial start until after the 2024 election.
Which they can't stand.
Exactly.
They are pushing to convict President Trump of anything they can before the election.
Yep.
So they can sit there and call him a criminal. Well, he's been convicted.
Well, and he's not. But here's my kind of point with this is, if you're on the outside looking in at this and you have completely no affiliation whatsoever and you see this and you understand what true justice and true liberty and equal application under the law should be, correct? Okay, you look at this and you go, well, Should a president have immunity? You might say, no, he shouldn't. This is basically what they're arguing, right?
Yes, they are.
Let's argue it then. I'm ready for it, because to me, if we're going to do equal application under the law, then we got to do equal application under the law. Correct?
Correct.
Amen. Let's
Yes,
do
we
it.
do it. I'm ready to put Obama in jail. Are you ready to put Obama in jail?
That was kind of my point with that. Was
Yes.
if President Trump gets no immunity, then President Obama gets no immunity.
Neither does Biden.
President Biden gets no immunity. President Clinton gets no immunity. Here you go. President George W. Bush gets no immunity.
That's right. You know, and they did a lot of stuff.
Well, they lied about WMDs. They
They've
drug
lied
us.
to the American people. They have not been transparent about nothing.
They drug us into those wars for 20 years based on lies.
Yes.
That's what they're doing with Ukraine now, based on lies.
Everything is based on lies.
This administration's doing exactly what they've always done.
Gaslight.
Yep.
Yes. But these, on Monday, a group of retired military officers, including former four-star generals and admirals, as well as past secretaries of the U.S. military branches, filed an amicus brief with the Supreme Court. The group warns of the alleged threats to national security and democratic principles if former President Donald J. Trump claims of president immunity for official acts were to be accepted. Now, that right there tells you that President Trump is a threat to their democratic principles. Has nothing to do with national security. It has to do with their democratic principles.
Yeah, remember they're always talking about our democracy. When
Mm-hmm.
they talk about our democracy, they're not talking about yours. They're talking about theirs.
No, they're not.
Yep.
They go on and list several names.
These are the retired former generals.
The retired former generals. There's a retired Air Force general, retired Army generals, retired Marine generals, retired Navy admirals,
Coast
Guard, and many names.
Yeah, and they're basically, to me, they're basically wash bucket names. I don't really recognize any of them. Maybe Michael Hayden, but
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah, Michael Hayden also served as the CIA director. It's probably why we know his name off the, little bit. But these others, I know none of their names. I have no idea who they are. And now they're supposed to be important in the scheme of things.
Well, yeah, and I think that the real importance in this is, like the article says, should the theory of absolute immunity prevail, the group argues, it will risk jeopardizing America's standing as a guardian of democracy in the world and further feeding the spread of authoritarianism, thereby threatening the national security of the United States and democracies around the world.
All I can do is laugh about
Just
this.
laugh, yeah.
But the reason why is because they go on to say that potential chaos and security risks that could arise if a president faced no accountability for criminal actions aimed at obstructing a peaceful transfer of power.
Right. So I guess they're only saying that this only pertains to this one thing. So this idea of not being able to have immunity should apply to all, which is what I went to, I guess, as a verse.
Mm-hmm.
If you're complaining that this president has faced no accountability, if you're complaining that his criminal actions, it should apply equally.
Yes.
It shouldn't just be for the peaceful transition of power. It should also be for drone bombing American citizens.
Yes, it should.
Yeah, it should be for hiding classified documents in your garage when you're the vice president and you had no authorization to have them anyway.
Yes.
It should apply to you having classified documents on your servers, and then when you're caught with them, you wipe them all clean. There should be no immunity there.
I agree. I agree. It's all about gaslighting everybody. We've seen the hypocrites. We've seen how hypocritical these people are. I mean, they accuse you of doing what they're doing. Now, what's going to happen and what I am going to predict is that they are going to obstruct a peaceful transfer of power in 24 or in 25 when President Trump goes to become the president of the United States. This is what I see. And because they're going to blame him for obstructing a peaceful transition of power, which he did not do, in any way, shape, or form, they're going to do it.
Right. And maybe if we're playing chess, maybe that's their plan anyway. And guess what? If this trial doesn't begin or drags past the election, they can do that and claim immunity too.
Yes, they can. Well, that just goes to what we're going to talk about next, where Garland risks contempt of Congress. Now, what else is hypocritical about this headline? Garland risks contempt of Congress. DOJ refuses to produce audio of Biden interview with special counsel. What do you see that's hypocritical about that headline that's going on right now?
The fact that Peter Navarro's in jail?
Yes, for contempt of Congress. Do you think they are going to charge him with contempt of court?
Do I think
Contempt of Congress?
Do I think Comer's going to do it? I don't think he will.
I don't
think he
either.
has it in him. I know he wants to talk and say that he will, but we've watched this cat for this entire year do absolutely nothing but get on Maria every Sunday morning and talk about what he's going to do. And by the next week, he offers excuses as to why he didn't do it. And he offers another thing he's going to do this next week. And then we just repeat, rinse, wash, and repeat.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, and it says here on Red State, it says the Department of Justice has twice refused to surrender the audio recordings, potentially subjecting Attorney General Merrick Garland to contempt of Congress charges. Well, it says right there the DOJ has twice refused.
Twice.
So that right there tells you they're not going to do anything but holler at them.
Yeah.
They give a timeline here. On February 27th, the House Oversight, Ways and Means and Judiciary Committees issued subpoenas to the DOJ for Hur's interview, including transcripts, notes, videos, and audio files. These requests were made to determine if they were used to help the Bidens influence peddling schemes. On the subpoena's March 7th deadline, the DOJ provided insufficient production to the committees, including only letters between Biden's legal counsel and the department and an offer to review 2 classified documents in camera. So in other words, they had to go and be filmed to look at 2 classified documents. This gets out of control about this classified document thing. I really think everything should be transparent. Classified documents has become a national security, like the name national security. It's a cover.
It's a cover.
It's a cover for them to not show what they need to show. But on March 12th, just over 2 hours before her scheduled testimony before the House Judiciary Committee, the DOJ provided 2 redacted transcripts of his interviews with President Biden to the committees, omitting the audio recordings that were specifically prioritized. I just think this is funny. They're not going to get anything.
No. If you look at that and listen to the way that was just told to you, just hours before they give all this redacted transcript statements, they give all this redacted stuff, and they refuse the video to turn over the video evidence, the audio recordings. At that point, if you're James Comer and you're serious about what you're doing, at that point right there, then the contempt of Congress charge should have came down. Exactly right then. No questions asked, no bullshitting. Here we go. But he didn't do that.
And he's not going to.
That exactly. When that happened right there, everybody watching that, if you think objectively at all, you went,
well, I just figured.
It's over. He ain't doing nothing.
I just figured Comer and our judiciary committees and all that didn't get the memo that conservatives are standing up in our space now. We're calling their bluff. Yeah. So it's time for you to call his bluff and hold him in contempt of Congress.
Yeah.
I'm ready to see that, Comer.
Yep.
We're all ready to see you hold him in contempt of Congress. Just like happened to Steve Bannon, and just like what happened to Navarro, who is in jail, in prison right now for 4 months for this very same thing.
Yep.
We'll see what you do. We're watching you. And then while we're watching you, Christopher Wray's FBI. I mean, if it doesn't go from the DOJ, then the FBI, and the hypocrites in the FBI. Look, public here on Fox News this morning, we hear Public Safety Group finds FBI crime data is higher than initially reported. Another report claims violent crimes are significantly underreported and FBI crime classifications have changed.
Here's a video from Jesse Waters last night.
So if crime's everywhere, why do they say crime's down?
A new report from the FBI shows that there was a 13% decline in murder.
Despite what the data shows, which we've been talking about, the fact that crime is going down in most places is not registering with the public.
I can safely walk my dog to the Capitol today in a way that you couldn't do when we all got here.
I'm glad Pete can walk his dog, but why should we believe the FBI? Well, turns out we shouldn't. The Washington Examiner did some digging and discovered the FBI's been cooking the books. Did you know about half the country doesn't send their crime statistics to the FBI? So the FBI just estimates the number of crimes, and then they estimate in the wrong direction. Murders are actually up 23% across 70 cities since 2019. In Milwaukee, the FBI reported a 13% drop in robberies, but Milwaukee police reported a 7% increase. The Biden administration's using Enron-style accounting to cook the books on everything from crime to the border to the economy. And then the media reporters, they just regurgitate the propaganda and they wonder why the country's soured. We don't trust them and Trump's winning.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And researchers wrote here, to say crime is down is like descending from a tall peak and standing on a high bluff, saying you are closer to the ground. A true but misleading statement. That's exactly what they do. They mislead in everything they say.
Exactly.
You know, and they write it in a way for you to believe that crime is way down. Now, the FBI, I've never understood why the FBI would be actually getting this data. It's supposed to go by states. That's, once again, a federal overreach. FBI coming out and on the side of Joe Biden because everyone knows that crime is up in Democrat cities everywhere across the nation. This is in red states, too, like here in Houston, in Dallas, and everything that's going on. There is crime in Austin, everywhere, all over the place. And they want to come out and show some kind of data. And their data probably showed the Republicans or the Democrat cities were down and Republicans were up. I mean, they gaslight you everywhere. And why do they come out and say this? Is it because of the FISA coming out? Why is all of a sudden the DOJ and the FBI like in front of our faces?
Well, what I seen with this is, and when he says that, you know, these cities weren't turning in the numbers to the FBI, are you required to turn those numbers in? And if you're not turning in those numbers, is it because you understand that what they're asking for is an overreach and you're telling them, hey, screw you, here's the middle finger to you? Or are you not turning them in because that's in their best interest that you don't turn them in so that they can put the numbers out here to look good?
Exactly.
I tend to go with that theory right there.
That's the theory I'm going to go with, you know, because Americans' support for greater law enforcement and stiffer criminal penalties has increased as polls show that the public believes crime has risen and they feel less safe. Now, see, this right here is big because the Democrats totally are on board with no police. They think that their way of policing is going to show better numbers than actually policing.
And here's another contrast that they don't want you to see. It goes on in the article too. Through aggregated data sets directly from more than 70 of the nation's largest police departments and victim surveys, researchers claim violent crime has been substantially elevated in major cities compared to what? Pre-2020 levels. There you go.
And it also showed that due to significant underreporting of certain crimes, the FBI's official data doesn't completely capture the full snapshot of the crime in the U.S.
That is exactly correct. And the reason that they're shoving all this out here right now is because it's an election year, and this gives Joe Biden something to stand there and lie about.
Yes.
You know, and try to make himself look good. But the researchers have shown you that we're not better off this 4 years than we were 4 years ago. In anything, we're not better off in anything.
In anything.
We're not better. We have not improved our education numbers. We have not improved our crime rate numbers. We have not improved our inflation numbers. We have not improved our job growth numbers. We have definitely not improved our GDP. All we've done is got ourselves in $33 trillion debt. That is all that we have done, weakened ourselves.
Weakened ourselves on the world stage. They keep talking about, oh, we need to stay strong on the world stage. But honestly, we're not. We are way weaker now than we were. And that's just the way it is. And that's because of the Biden administration.
Let's keep talking about the Biden administration and their abuse and overreach.
Especially for all the states.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, Texas, like right here on the Texas scorecard, Texas requests courts reconsider lawsuit to stop the Biden administration from misusing parole. Now, this is really important here in Texas. Everyone's heard. I know we've talked about it. It's the migrant flights. Attorney General Ken Paxton, America First Legal, and a coalition of attorney generals from other states are asking federal courts to reconsider Texas's lawsuit against the Biden administration regarding the transportation of illegal aliens via air travel into the U.S. This motion was filed yesterday. It takes aim at the Department of Homeland Security and President Biden's parole scheme, which allows 30,000 aliens from countries like Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to enter the U.S. every month and remain in the country indefinitely. This program allows these aliens, after more or less flying to the destination of their choice, to obtain work permits and ultimately claim public benefits such as food stamps and welfare. The program floods our country with legions of illegal aliens who should not be here, only further worsening the worst immigration crisis in our nation's history.
And what's crazy is it goes on to say that back in February, the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas had initially dismissed this lawsuit because they believed that the states were not sufficiently harmed by the program. But this was before the fact was revealed about President Biden flying the secret flights everywhere all over the country, and what they counted it like at 300,000 total. So this came before that, I guess. This decision here did. So this is why now that they're coming back and filing this lawsuit now.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the Biden administration were denying that they even had this program to begin with.
That's where I'm saying that the court was, and the U.S. District Court was saying that you haven't shown that this could sufficiently harm the people.
Right. Well, now I guess our Attorney General here in Texas has decided, hey, there's plenty of evidence. And some of this evidence includes the cost of issuing, and look, driver's license, health care expenditures, education, and law enforcement. This costs the states money.
These are resources that whenever we do talk about illegal immigration and the wide open border, these are resources that I always talk about, that these people are putting a strain on our resources.
That's exactly right. You know, and James was talking about the economy and the numbers that came out recently. And it showed in there the amount of people that were hired in those numbers. Over 75% of those were illegals going into jobs, Americans' jobs.
Yep.
And more Americans popped out of the workforce than popped in.
Yes.
You know, and then the people that came in during this time also, like, for example, senior citizens are having a really hard time right now supporting themselves. I mean, just themselves. You know, they're paying rent with insurance, and then health care expenditures are really high for our senior citizens. They're having to go out and get a second job. So that was in there.
Right.
That number,
yeah,
you know, is in there. So we are being squeezed everywhere we can. So I want to thank the state of Texas and then the other attorney generals from the states of Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Florida, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Utah, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Thank you very much for all coming together as a coalition to stop the Biden administration from sending illegal aliens all over our country, especially in the red states, because that's where they're going. They're going to the red states.
They are. And the CIS, or the Center for Immigration Studies, it says here that they recently analyzed data from U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, finding that Florida was the top landing zone for the illegal alien flights. Miami alone has been reported to receive 326,000 illegal aliens as of February. And guess who's second? Houston is the second highest destination, receiving 21,964 foreign nationals, followed by L.A., who is a distant third with only 8,000. Do you believe that's that big of a gap?
No, I believe that.
I don't either.
And ever since we've gotten these numbers, because we talked about this last week, the amount of that we're going to Miami and to Houston, and the big difference between the Miami and the Houston one, I believe, isn't wrong.
Is wrong too?
Definitely wrong.
Yeah, I believe they're all wrong.
I believe maybe we're closer to 300,000. I'm sorry, I do not believe that 21,000. I think that it is way more than that sent to Houston.
Hey, here's an idea with the 326 going to Miami. Think about this. Think about the Cuban population in Miami and the demographic of the Cubans that are there. And what do all those Cubans overwhelmingly, who do they overwhelmingly support?
Conservative
President Trump.
They
You're
do.
exactly right. So maybe that's the whole game of them flying all them into there. Maybe they see that. And then they're again with Houston flooding only 21,000 into there, trying to not really change the demographics, because Houston is a blue city.
Yes.
Not really trying to change the demographics, but to strengthen their demographics. Why? Because they cheat their elections too. Harris County's been caught already cheating their elections. So maybe that's the game they're playing with that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. We're going to keep an eye on this, because I totally don't believe that Houston number.
And I don't believe the L.A. number. There's absolutely no way.
Yeah, I believe these numbers. You know, the Biden administration don't put up correct numbers.
Well, we've already been showing that.
But
during
the thing
show.
about this 326,000, I wonder if that's like a FU to Ron DeSantis or something. I don't know. But if they're sending Cubans over there to Florida, no wonder his estate is red.
No, not that they're sending Cubans there. There's already a heavy Cuban population.
Well, I know,
that's
but
been there.
but Cuba is one of the places that they send from. Ain't that one of the places?
Well, it could
Cuba,
be. But
see?
It could
Cuba,
be.
Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela.
It could be, but how do you know? And that's where I'm saying out of that
How do you know?
326,000. What do you know? What are the splits here between that?
I agree. We need to know those numbers.
Yeah, it could definitely be 326,000.
Because I was going to say maybe Governor DeSantis is, padding his numbers over there with some Cubans. But who knows really what the numbers are, because I don't believe anything that the Biden administration puts out anymore. Totally don't. But we're going to stick with Texas, and our last article that we're going to go over with the Texas scorecard is House lawmakers propose contract with Texas to end liberal dysfunction. I think this is really cool.
Yeah. This group is calling on the next Speaker of the House to implement a series of 12 reforms. They've listed these here in this Texas scorecard article. Let's kind of look through them.
We'll look through them and see.
Let's see what we got here, man.
It was signed by 13 members and members-elect. Some of these hadn't even been elected yet, and they're putting their name on this, so it's pretty cool.
They're members-elect. They just haven't started serving yet.
Yes.
And this is their statement. For far too long, Republican speakers of the Texas House have centralized power to themselves, which renders individual Texans without effective representatives, and colluded with Democrats to advance progressive policies and to stop Republican priorities, the letter reads. So to put that in a nutshell, basically what has been going on is Dade Phelan, when he became Speaker of the House, instead of him working toward conservative and Republican issues, what he'd done was sit there and embolden himself toward the Democratic side by offering favors back and forth to them. Not only that, we've had a bunch of Republican seats being filled by people who are truly Democrats, and they're siding with Phelan. So what they basically done is we're doing the same thing that we've done in D.C., which is a small group of one party has emboldened themselves with the other party to create this bigger uniparty, and they're going against the grassroots people, the voters, basically.
Yes.
They're actually, this group is fighting against the voters now, the grassroots voters, the ones that truly want the best interests of Texas, property tax relief, school choice, those things, the things that these guys don't
The things
want,
that Dave Phelan just knocked down.
just doesn't want. Exactly. So look at the similarities between that and what we got going on in D.C. Here we got in D.C. we got the Democrat Party and we got the RINOS, which what we call another day. We come up with the new undocumented Democrats.
I love it.
Yeah. The undocumented Democrats. But you've got that group, and now that's become the uniparty. And who are they battling? The America First MAGA group.
And they can't stand the people, which is the people, really.
Yeah, and
that's what the people want.
Yeah. The letter goes on to read that the House's most recent session was marked by obstruction, dysfunction, and a lack of fundamental fairness in application of the House rules, and this cannot continue. The message of last month's primaries was self-evident and sent a clear message that business as usual is not acceptable.
And we won't put up with our Attorney General Ken Paxton being impeached ever again.
That's one of the things that we're talking about that this letter probably is referring to. Another thing that it was talking about is, remember back in 20 or 21 when the Democrats broke quorum?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yes.
and were threatened with punishment from it, but nothing ever happened.
Nothing happened.
You know, so here's the 12 reforms that they're asking for. Number one is only solicit support for speakership from Republican members.
That's only natural. You would think common sense stuff is all they have here.
That's it. Two would be to end the practice of awarding Democrats with committee chairmanships. And I agree with this too. If the Republican Party is got the majority and you create these committees, there should never be a party from the other side being able to head that committee. That's unproductive.
Yes. It totally goes against every bit of our legislative priorities.
Yeah.
You know, when you do stuff like that.
Right.
And speaking of, number 3, ensure all GOP legislative priorities receive a floor vote before any Democrat bills. Wow. Is that common sense or what?
Exactly. And I like, we could read through all 12 of them, but I like the number 7, 8, and 9 especially. Stop parliamentary abuse by requiring only substantial adherence to House rules to keep hyper-technical points of order from killing good legislation. Allow audio, video recording of all House proceedings, including point of order of debates. And the last one, start substantive work as soon as session begins to end the delays that kill priority legislation. I love number 7 because it does. What it's asking is to stop the abuse of these slick lawyers who will come in there with some hyper-technicality or some miswording or some real poor interpretation that will sit there and stall this bill and hurt the people of the state.
But you know what? The future of our state is on the line. And with an out-of-control federal government that seeks to undermine our borders, the Constitution, and our freedoms, Texas must lead by example. As conservative Republican members and prospective members of the Texas House, we are committed to reforming it from a body of liberal dysfunction to a body that more faithfully serves Texas voters. And it is time for new leadership in the Texas House, the group wrote. Is this thing working?
Rise up. Well, hey, everybody, that's it for today. Thanks for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you've learned some things about what's going on around us in the nation and in your communities. You know, we couldn't do this without your continued support either. We appreciate all of you showing up, taking the time to listen to us today. So please, like I say, make sure to hit the like button, share our show with all your friends. We'll see you next time on Is This Thing Working? And as always, I'm James, and that's my lovely co-host over there,
Denise.
And we'll see you next time.
We're out.